Building Men is brought to you by Finish the Race Apparel, FTRapparel.com, the creators of all things building men, and by Become Stronger Industries, become-stronger.com, the creators of handmade steel maces, hammers, and other badass equipment.
One of the most attractive things was like a man that was incredibly dangerous, that could take your life at any time, but decides not to, right? Like he's virtuous in that effect, right? So the same guy that is incredibly dangerous and incredibly valuable because of his knowledge, his experience, capabilities, but at the same time, the same guy that will walk by the janitor and pick up a piece of trash and throw it in the trash can and ask the janitor how his day's going. Like, to me, that's what makes a man. Like, you should aspire to be the baddest motherfucker you can possibly be, and then talk to the one that's not like you to the other ones that are in your inner circle.
You're listening to the Building Men podcast with Dennis and Anthony Miralda, brothers on a mission
to help you become the strongest version of yourself, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically.
What's up, brother?
What up?
How's it going, man?
I'm feeling good. Now
I am. A little
Shared
coffee
a little
in this
coffee.
system. Yeah, we're in our studio today, and typically we bring caffeine with us. Today didn't work out for whatever reason, and I'm like, oh, they have Keurig here. We're all set. We go grab a cup of. There was one fucking pot of Keurig, and we are scouring the whole entire place.
Army crawling, yeah.
Legit, we're in a. And I probably shouldn't say this right now, but fuck it. The studio is inside of a church, right? And so I shouldn't say
but fuck it.
But fuck it. I'm gonna say we're in a
fucking church.
We're in a church where the studio is. It's great and everything. And there's all these different offices and rooms. And I was like, probably shouldn't be doing this, but I'm like looking through the drawers of the pastor looking for.
Tell me you have an addiction without telling me you have an addiction.
Exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
So
we're fiending
I didn't go through the offering plate or anything like that.
They were locked.
They were locked.
So we couldn't.
But I did find a set of keys. I didn't go any further than that. But now we have one cup of coffee between the two of us. That's how we're starting.
Sounds like a sin. Yeah.
Before we get going with our two guests on, I thought about this idea of. We're going to talk about masculinity a lot and what it means to be a man. But I started to think back about the original Building Men program as I was running with the kids in the school. And I would ask the kids what they thought a man was. Like, what if you could like physically build a man? What does he look like? What does he sound like? And I could still remember some of the things that they said to me. So if you take yourself back to, say, a middle school or high school kid, and I asked you, give me some characteristics of a man. Like, if you were really thinking of a masculine man, what would some things be that you would throw out there?
I mean, he'd just be a large human being. You know, he would be strong. He would be like a presence. Like, just it would mostly be at that age would be physical stature.
Right.
I feel like that's what I would be looking at.
There would be a lot of physical traits. Like, I would think there'd be some leather or something, like motorcycle or a truck.
Yeah, he'd have a beard. It would be like all the things that I don't have in that moment that I look, you know what I mean? Like, I would just look at that.
He'd be hung.
Yeah.
Still what you're looking for in a man.
I'm waiting for that. Yeah, just still waiting to find that.
So as I was thinking about that, I'm like, the guys we're talking to today, they're manly men, right? They're Southern guys. They're from the Tennessee area, and when we talked to them, we were on their podcast, The Shepherds of Men. As we're talking, I'm like, these are manly men. And I was like, this is what the Building Men group, this is what they thought men were like. So let's bring on Cam Brown and JP, Josh Parsons. What's up, guys? How's it going?
What's up, gentlemen? How are y'all?
I thought you were about to say these guys are hung. I was like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even
that
know
would be, I guess, the third podcast that we do together. We didn't get all that way yet.
That's round 3 when we really get to know each other. Yeah.
But JP, you just posted something up where you're squatting like 500 pounds.
Yeah. Well, it was, so it's kind of
405. Let's 405. Come on.
It was 405 or 6, but yeah. So it's still heavy. The crazy thing is I've got a pretty severe herniation in my lower back, and I've just kind of said fuck it. To be honest with you, the heavy weight hasn't bothered me, so I don't know what it is. But I do want to say that punctuation is very, very important, and I'm not talking about me being late to be here.
Lead by example, brother.
I'm talking about the comment you said earlier about being at church, and you said "but fuck it." So we need to make sure there was a comment in there. It wasn't "but fuck it." It was "but fuck it." So,
Yeah.
So there was only one T.
I didn't know you were at a Catholic church.
Only one
T and a comma.
and a comma.
All right. You got to make sure of that.
But thank you for
transcripts of this episode.
I was going to say we got to go in and tweak that a little bit in case.
Usually we'll post something up there, and that'll be the quote from the episode.
Yeah,
that's gonna be the title of the episode. What are you talking about?
Why not?
Right.
Why not?
Well,
so we came on your podcast, The Shepherds of Men. The episode just published the end of April. So by the time this publishes, it'll be about a month out from the time that aired. And we had a good time with you guys. It was cool chopping it up, talking about our journey, and it was being able to share our collective journey and how Building Men came to be. And so we went back and listened to a lot of the old episodes with you guys, and we'd love to hear you give us your origin story around how did the Shepherds of Men program come to be? How did you guys get together and start up what you're doing?
JP, you tell it so much better than I do.
I don't know about that. I can start it off though. So there was four of us that done some business together in the past, and we all kind of ended up going our separate ways, just doing life, in all different careers, business ventures, things of that nature. But there was always that bond that was there, especially in the personal growth area, like being of integrity, being men of influence, really trying to be strong men that are great examples and stuff. So we kept in contact somewhat by proxy and started talking about what we were doing to grow, what we were reading, what we were learning from it, what we were applying to our lives and stuff. And it turned into, hey, like why don't we just meet up once a month and let's talk about what we're learning, let's share with each other, let's grow together, kind of thing. And we were meeting at a restaurant called The Goat up in Murfreesboro, and just over a couple of beers talking. And one of the guys that was there that actually initiated it because he wanted some help and accountability, he said, "Man, why the hell aren't we recording this?" And I was like, "I don't know. That's a good idea." So we set a phone down and started recording it. And then he was like, "Dude, I've got all the technology." He's kind of a techie kind of guy. And he was like, "Dude, why don't we just start a podcast? I'll produce it for you and stuff." So that was kind of, in short, the original origin of it. And then from there, it just kind of started to snowball a little bit. And we had people reaching out to us and they're like, "Dude, we love the podcast. We love what you guys are talking about. How the hell do we get involved?" And we were like, "Oh,
great question."
Yeah.
So, we were just thinking of that. What's a good way to get people involved?
Yeah. So that was kind of where the Men Reforged program was kind of forged for, fully intended, that pun. But that was kind of how we created that. It was an area where men could come to not only learn how to grow, because I think a lot of men are lost on what direction they need to go to become who they need to be. And our big thing is influential men, right? Like we're defining masculinity by being influential men. We need good guys that are influential men. You know what? We actually just got off of a great podcast with Ryan Mickler, and he had an outstanding kind of definition of masculinity, and he basically, in essence, said it is neither good nor bad. It's not virtuous, and it's not evil. It's all a matter of who uses it, right? So a lot of what we teach is character building traits, a lot of foundational things. So that's kind of how the Men Reforged program got rolling and stuff. We kind of took some feedback from individuals that we had around us with the struggles that they had, and tried to build a program that would really be beneficial to men, and from a developmental standpoint, to be that influence that's really needed in society today.
Now the GOAT, is it GOAT like the animal, or was it greatest of all time bar? What is it?
It's got to be greatest of all time.
Yes. I want to go back a little bit to clarify on some things, because I think it's important for people out there that may have similar situations or promptings or whatever going on. So, like JP said, we had kind of grown apart, not just with our calendars, not so much with a bond. And then there were each of us having these very strong promptings and feelings, and just kind of, I'm a Christian, but we both are. We're those guys that we love Jesus, but we cuss a lot. So the fact that you're in a church saying fuck doesn't bother us a bit. But we were just kind of feeling led to do something, individually. And then we all started bringing it up to each other. And it was one of those moments where you go, okay, if all four of us are getting the same message, and we're feeling like we got to take action on this and actually do something that matters, at least start conversations about making masculinity cool again, or manliness, as Mickler let us understand the other day, then maybe we should actually do that and take action. And so that is why we started the podcast. None of us had any experience with that. And then, it did kind of snowball from there. And now it's turned into, coaching. We have to work with, we have live events we run. I've actually got our next event coming up June 25th. Yes, I am plugging our event. I appreciate you guys putting that out there. It's been a blast, man. And I will say, I want to also mention, you guys being on our show was phenomenal. We enjoyed the hell out of the conversation. We really, really did. And it was kind of like the first time that we'd had somebody similar to us where there was two. I know y'all are actually like blood brothers. We consider ourselves brothers from other mothers, but it was neat to see that same dynamic. And then also the fact that you're focusing on just a little bit different demographic for the most part. I know you work with typically like teens to college age dudes, where we work like right past like 25 to 45 is kind of our normal demographic. So, dude, I just feel like there's so much to come of this, as I mentioned on the last one.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it was cool because, and if you haven't checked it out yet, go back and check out the Shepherds of Men. The episode, it was April 27th, 28th, something like that was the time frame it came out. But you get a good idea about the rapport that we had with each other. It definitely felt like we knew each other already. And even the geographical nuances in the conversation was really good. Yeah. I listened to it again today. We had a blast on it, and we appreciate you guys having us on your podcast as well. So when we first talked, for Cam and for JP, when we first talked, we met via Zoom meeting a month and a hook ago, and we were talking, and you were telling me the origin story. There was one of your brothers from another mother was Chris Wilson, correct? Like that,
yep.
Your buddy that came on. And when we went back and listened to some of the origin episodes, he was a part of that. So when you guys started this movement together, going into it, did you have roles as far as like, all right, Cam says, I'll take the lead here, and then JP, you do this, or you're going to be the color man, you do that, or was it just, we're just going to fucking jump in and see what happens?
Ready, fire, aim type thing.
Yeah, we're very much ready, fire, aim on initially, and then we kind of molded into our roles naturally, like the things that we were good at or more interested in. We kind of took over. So yeah, Chris really handled a lot of all this branding and stuff you see. This all came from Wilson, like all the logos, all that stuff. It was all, I mean, we all had input on it, but it was his baby. And, even really the media stuff on the front end, he kind of took over, and Neil was always the tech guy and the producer. Me and JP were really just here because we like to talk a lot.
Yeah.
And we're fun. So, I don't know. Now that it's just down to the two of us, we're still fun and we like to talk a lot. So that works out for the podcast. But when it comes to social media and all of the shit, we're kind of lacking now.
So Wilson was the marketing guy. O'Neill was the production guy. Like, is this like boy band
JP
thing?
was the
so
squat
JP
guy.
was the squat, like the good looking guy. Who are you? Like Cam, you're like the
Cam was supposed to be the good looking.
Oh,
what the fuck are you
like
talking about? Yeah.
we established that, like who's the
I'm like, dude, come on, man.
I have effectively become the hood ornament of the vehicle that we call Shepherds of Men.
Cam, I got you, bud.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. I'm the short guy, I think, is what my role. I'm the short guy.
No, so just to touch on that though, we all did have a lot of different strengths, and obviously my strength and my passion was around, in this world and really, motivate and inspiring guys become better, in that area. I mean, I also, I love the mental aspect. I'm a very cerebral kind of guy. So I love that part of it. And then Cam is incredibly, organized and pushed, I guess you could say, when it comes to relationships with people. Like Cam's a guy that you meet Cam, and then like walk and you're like, I've never met that guy before in my life, but I swear we've known each other forever.
Right.
Where's my wallet?
He's just that kind of guy, and he's always been very good at that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, Cam was one of the first outside of coaching, like playing ball and stuff like that, was one of the first guys that I had in my life that was kind of a mentor from a business perspective. You know, I kind of jumped under the wing early on. I was pretty successful in my career, but I didn't want to work for the man for the rest of my life. I always wanted to figure something else out to do. And actually, he was one of the first ones that stepped in and started teaching me some of the principles of entrepreneurship and things of that nature. So he's a big part of me transitioning from that being my focus to be, you know, a CEO or vice president of a large company to the CEO of my own company.
Appreciate that. Coach people that have a lot of natural talent, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Right. That's good. I love the brotherhood feel there. So there's a bit of like ball busting, but also like, yeah, I'm fucking proud of you too, man. I like that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely ball busting, 100%. Like, he doesn't let me off the hook for shit, and I don't let him off the hook for shit either. But I believe that's what you have to have. And I'm sure that you guys have the same. I mean, we talked about it with y'all's story, right? I mean, like, you were mentored, became mentee when you needed it. You know, you planted those seeds and then turned around and your harvest fed you while you were starving, you know, kind of thing. And that's awesome, man. And that stuff kind of comes around. I believe in the whole karma aspect of things and stuff. And that's, you know, blessed to be a blessing kind of idea, right?
It's similar too, because we have a big age gap. He's way older than I am.
Absolutely. This is outstanding skincare and tons of caffeine.
That's beautiful.
You're great for 55.
Yeah, I can't believe
that. So one of the first episodes that you guys put out, and all the credit to you guys. So the podcast, it started in July of 2019, and right off the bat, it seemed like it was a good rapport with what you guys were doing. It sounded like, I go back and listen to the beginnings of what we were doing, and comparatively speaking, we were a train wreck when we first started the podcast. So initially, it was just me with the podcast, and you guys had a good vibe right off the bat. And so one of the first episodes that you guys had was what makes a man, and you got into it. And I went back and I listened to that episode about a week and a half ago, and then I listened to it again today. Just your definitions of what makes a man, and then masculinity. And you read off the definition of masculinity. And it's something that we've done on the podcast as well. But basically, you were talking about characteristics, habits, roles that were associated with being a man. And what the fuck does that even mean? Right. And what does that even mean? So as you, on your journey, you basically have been doing what we've been doing in a different realm, like you had mentioned, Cam, with a different demographic or audience, but trying to define for your audience, what is masculinity and what does it truly mean to be a man? So let me open it up to you guys to run with that idea.
That episode was a long time ago. It still holds true. I mean, I'll tell you what our Men Reforged program is built around what we call an active ethos. And the active stands for association, confidence, tenacity, integrity, vision, and etiquette. So this ethos that we believe builds an influential man. Now, that's a little different than your question as far as masculinity, but I agree with JP. Mickler helped kind of tweak our thought process on masculinity, and of course, he was calling it manliness, as really seeking after turning males into men. And I agree with that. The masculine part of it is, kind of like what Anthony was talking about. When you're a kid, I agree with you. When you were saying that, I was like, yeah, that's what I would have thought. Like, he's a big dude, probably chops lumber or something, and rides a Harley or a pickup and fights people sometimes. I don't know, but I think ultimately I can personally, and I have a different story than JP, I can look at my dad as a great example of masculinity, because I see the way he's lived his life always, and I try to implement as much as possible. I come up short a lot, but he was just always the same. So there's an emotional stability that is there. So there is some stoicism, but also where he and I are different. I actually show emotion. JP will tell you about that, I'm sure. Of the two of us, I'm the crier. But he's also tough, like he's tough as nails physically, emotionally stable. He provides. I know this is something that Mick will talk about too, is providing, presiding, protecting, all things, standing in the gap, filling the role, being the husband that, I think where people miss today when they think about masculinity, especially because there's this, catchphrase of toxic masculinity, which is some bullshit thing made up to, sell t-shirts or something. It's always this, beat chest, slapping your wife around, sitting on the couch, drinking a beer, just being a complete asshole. That's not masculinity. He talks about this all the time. That's a immature little boy in a man's body that doesn't understand how the world works. Real masculinity is somebody that knows how to love his wife and like show love and like be intentional about trying to figure out her love language. That's not the kind of stuff when you hear about masculinity, that's not the kind of stuff you picture, but somebody that understands how to provide for their wife and their children, to be an example, to make decisions based on not how it affects you, but probably more importantly, how it affects everybody else. Those are the things that I think about when it comes to masculinity. And having biceps and, squatting 405 is not bad either. I think you should definitely stay in some kind of, healthy physical condition. But mainly for me, yes, I like to be in a physically appealing, to be physically appealing, whatever. I don't know how to say that. I like to look good in the mirror to myself because that just gives me confidence. But mostly I want to be healthy so I can do the things that I need to do. Like I want to be able to wrestle with my kids. I want to be able to kick somebody's ass if they touch my wife. I want to be able to go and work hard if I have to, if I haven't figured out how to work smart yet. So those are the things for me. JP's being real stupid right now.
Yeah, you got glutes for days from what I hear.
That's right.
So JP, what about you? What would you add to? I know the father figure role was not portrayed by a father. Like, talk to us a little bit about your upbringing because you didn't have that same father figure role as Cameron did.
Yeah. So mine was probably significantly different than Cameron's was. My interest in this, and I like what you guys were saying. Like, what do you think of when you see like a man? Like, what a man like? And for me, I give like a Viking, right? Like a big bearded badass that will take your life in a heartbeat. So for me, one of the most attractive things was like a man that was incredibly dangerous, that could take your life at any time, but decides not to, right? Like he's virtuous in that effect, right? So the same guy that is incredibly dangerous and incredibly valuable because of his knowledge, his experience, capabilities, but at the same time, the same guy that will walk by the janitor and pick up a piece of trash and throw it in the trash can and ask the janitor how his day's going. Like, to me, that's what makes a man. Like, you should aspire to be the baddest motherfucker you can possibly be, and then talk to the one that's not like you to the other ones that are in your inner circle. Like, to me, that's what a man is. Like, to me, that is what a great example to kids that are upcoming and really other men that are out there. For me, the difference was like, I grew up with a single mom, moved all over the country my entire life, went to a bunch of different schools, did the fighting, did the drugs, did the jail. I didn't go to jail. Let me rephrase that. I got arrested twice in high school. If you're going to get arrested, do it in high school. Because
that's time to do it.
Yeah, that's time to do it. I learned my lesson. I got arrested twice for dumb shit in high school, but it matured me up a little bit. But the point of that is, throughout that process, I was looking for examples my entire life. I couldn't look at my mom and be like, oh, that's how a man should be. Although my mom whooped me like a man, that wasn't really, the example that I had. So I looked at coaches, I looked at preachers, I looked at neighbors. I tried to culminate what a man would really be for me. So I pulled from a lot of different areas. I didn't have like, one example that was like, that's the one right there. So what I started to do is to pull characteristics from different individuals that I thought were really good, characteristics. Like, saw some guys that were really high achievers, right? Like they just did great in their careers. They were balling. They were driving the nice car. They were dressed to the nines, fresh cut, the whole thing. And I'm like, ooh, I want to be like that. I want to walk around with that kind of stature. And then I saw the guys that walked around that respected everybody the same way. Like, as human beings, respected everybody the same way. Maybe not the same kind of respect from like a business aspect or from a growth aspect, but just as human beings, respected everybody the same way. And to me, that was really attractive as well. I was like, you know what, man, that's cool. That's humility, right? That's something that when a man is super dangerous, super accomplished, and had achieved a lot of things, but still has that level of humility, that puts you in the small percentage of men that are out there. And that's where you start to create that influence, right? Because you start to take kids like me that didn't have a dad, and you start to become a beacon of hope. Like, hold on, look at that guy, dude. That guy did it. I can do it. Like, if he can do it, I can do it. you know, and if I aspire to be this big, better, I make sure that my humility is where it needs to be at so that I can make sure that shit out. So, I mean, I don't know if that directly answers your question, but that's a lot of what I saw in men that I really aspired to be.
Building men of character, integrity, strength, compassion, and empathy through transformational mentoring, coaching, and motivational speaking is our mission here at Building Men. To work with me as a one-on-one life coach, you can find information in the show notes, or you can visit our website at buildingmen.io, where you can book a free 30-minute discovery call to help you become the strongest version of yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Now, back to the show.
And I love that idea. And it goes back to, there's an old adage, you want to be the warrior in the garden, not the gardener in the war.
Yep.
And Jordan Peterson talks about it. Good men are not nice guys who are passive. You're a monster. You're dangerous, and you have it under control, like you had mentioned, JP. I really love that, and I believe it really embodies everything that we are trying to teach young men as well. You want to be able to take care of yourself. You don't want to be this passive, mushy guy. You want to be the badass, but have it under control and be able to call upon it when necessary.
100%.
Cam, what's your love language? I'm really interested now. What's your love language? Is it cuddles? What do you got going on there?
Dude, I do like some cuddles.
Oh, it's a new nickname. I'm gonna call him Cuddles.
Cuddles.
What's up, Cuddles?
Do it.
I do.
See how that works out for you.
The dangerous end.
Put under control all these years, JP. Call me Cuddles. Man, you know, my wife would probably tell you. So what? I'm going blank. So there's what? Physical touch, which I think every dude has that in there somewhere.
Yeah.
That honestly probably is a big part of it. And I don't just mean sexually, but I am a touchy feely kind of guy. Like JP hates it. But I like to be, if I were talking to you guys and I shake your hand, I'd probably like shake your hand and put my other hand on top of the other one. Right. You know what I mean? Like pat your shoulder and do, like, I am kind of a physical kind of guy. I'm a hugger. I mean, my mom's side of the family, like, hugs. Like when I was a kid, if you went to into the driveway to get the mail, they would hug you like you were leaving for a month. You know, it just, that's what I grew up around. Now my side's totally the opposite of that. Like I still have to force him, and he's stiff as a board when I try to hug him, but I'd make him do it. So I guess physical touch, you know, words of affirmation, not some, I mean, every dude has an ego, so it's nice. What's the other ones?
There's gifts, acts of service.
I don't give a shit about gifts.
Me neither. Yeah, me neither.
Acts of service. Yeah, so acts of service would be up there too. Yeah, because
I would put touch and acts of service. That's what I.
Yeah, because myself and JP's wife Dina are the same personality, and then my wife and him are the same personality. Okay. So we joke about that all the time. But yeah, acts of service, just because I'm kind of, like he said, I'm kind of anal and organized, and so like if stuff is picked up around the house or stuff done that I don't have to do because I typically just do every little damn micromanaging thing, and so when other people do it, that's cool for me.
We should have done this like the dating game. We should have had JP answer for Cam and Cam. Like we should have done see how close we got for that.
Oh, we'd have nailed that. Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you, it was crazy. We were at an event just I don't know, about a month or two ago, and literally we're like, during the event, they purposely separated me and Cam because they knew we were business partners. So they separated us because they want, you know, obviously the networking side of things and everything. And we're sitting there throughout this event, we're taking notes and stuff like that, and then like after, you know, a few hours of doing it, like we had a little break, and I walked over there by Cameron, sat down. I was like, hey, just based off of what I'm hearing, this is what I'm thinking that maybe we can apply. And I swear, dude, I'm not kidding you. Like we were almost word for word on everything that we thought we could apply from everything. I was like, God, I feel like I'm married to you.
I know her. I'll tell you JP's if you want to play the married game. JP's love language.
Oh, let's hear it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I want to
all
hear
in.
Yeah, it's words of affirmation, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
He got me.
Yeah, just tell him he's cute and he looks good in small shirts, and he's.
That's exactly right.
Well, in the squad video, you can see your package from underneath.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I need. That's what I need right there. My man, a man after my heart right there. I just love you, brother.
It's so
I
good.
appreciate that shit.
Anytime.
Ain't nobody gonna be able to tell me shit for the rest of the day. Thank you.
You're good.
Yeah, but it's all balls. Don't.
All right. So,
in all seriousness, though, listen, that is his love language, but not so much. The yes, but the I think that stems from his upbringing, not having a father figure. And so having other men speak into him and tell him that he's doing something right and doing a good job and he's a badass kind of stuff, that's what makes him tick. So it took me a little while to learn that about him, because we did used to, we're very much parallel brothers now, but our initial relationship was I was coaching him in business, and I had to learn that about him.
It's interesting. I just did an interview with a guy who has a background in psychology, and we were talking about personality types. And so there's an assessment called the Big Five personality assessment. And I was going to say we should take this as well, but every partner should take it with their significant other. And the acronym is OCEAN, and it's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And you fill out this survey, and it basically gives you a percentile in each range, and you can figure out pretty accurately, he was saying, about how you deal with conflict within your relationship based on your level of neuroticism, your level of extroversion, your level of agreeableness. It was really, really fascinating. And he said you can sway a little bit within it with some, therapy and some work, but pretty much people are
like set
the way they
that.
are. Yeah, it was really, really interesting. And the other thing, Cam, I was fascinated by was the whole handshake thing. And building men, like when I first started building men, that's how we started and ended every meeting, was a good firm handshake. You look every other young man in the eye, you give him a good firm handshake like you're meeting your girlfriend's father for the first time, you're going on a job interview. And so that was really important. We talked about not giving the dead fish the wet noodle handshake, right?
Yeah.
And so fun, I don't even know if I told you this story. I was doing a workshop at a high school, and the principal there was a high school that was a magnet school for kids that wanted to get into law enforcement in some capacity. So it was with a group of 25 kids or something. The principal was a former military guy. He looked the part, crew cut, like barrel chested guy. And I walk in, I'm wearing a fucking bright pink shirt, as I always do, right? And I'm carrying a water bottle and my notes and my laptop or whatever. And he kind of like side saddles me, and he reaches out his hand to shake my hand. And so I go to reach out to shake my hand, and he like pulls me in and like takes the upper hand and like fucking pulls me. And I was like, what the fuck?
He got you.
He got me good. Like it was like a Donald Trump on fucking Vladimir Putin move.
Yeah.
And so on the way out, I'm like,
power move.
I'm gonna get him back. So I'm getting ready to like I brace myself for this handshake, and I'm getting ready to come in. And the secretary asks him a question. He turns around, talks to the secretary, and he does it again. And he gets me again. That motherfucker. Way. He grabs my hand again.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh, it was
this ain't his first rodeo.
Such a fucking move. So when you said that, the whole upper hand thing,
we know who left the alpha male in that.
I was like, I tucked my penis between my legs and walked out of the
I'll see you later.
I had no business.
You paid him for the time that you were there.
I was gonna like hold out my hand like this, and he could like
please,
oh, it was horrible.
Some more.
May I have another?
May I have another?
All right, ask the question. Now I'm like,
dude, so I grew up. It's too funny, but I grew up in small town Mississippi most of my life. And I don't know if you've ever been there, probably not, but it's a great place to be from. It's a great place to go back and visit. But it is not evolved as much as other areas of the world. And in some ways, in a lot of ways, that's really positive. When it comes to old school mentality and the way you raise kids up, and especially young men. And so that stuff is like subconsciously learned, because everybody you're around is, it is firm handshakes and look in the eyes and yes, sir, no, sir. I mean, like that's just the norm, so the further up, now we're still in Tennessee, but you'd be surprised how much different Nashville and Chattanooga are compared to Lewin, Mississippi, population 301, so that kind of stuff, like I am grateful every day. I wasn't when I was young. I wasn't really into it as much as, I was a kid and I was a dude and I was rebellious and, I want to do my own thing. But then at about the age of 25, I started thanking my dad. I'm like, man, I'm so grateful that you just were strict but fair, and that I grew up around these old school principles. And like, I so often want to get my sons down there just as much as possible, because there's so much good that can come from it, just hanging out down there.
And that's why it's so important what we're all doing here, not only to help the men who were helping initially for themselves, but to help the children that they can be mentors for, right? Because like for JP, like you had people that you could look to, Now, sometimes that's few and far between. So not only the men listening to this, not only for yourself, but so you can be that person. So you could show someone something that they might not have growing up, you know, and that's why we have the situation that we're in right now, because a lot of men didn't have someone to look up to. They didn't have someone to emulate, you know, they didn't have someone to base some of this stuff off of. So that's why this is so important, what we're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. That was one of the really attractive things for me too, was the whole gentleman's code. You know, like, have you guys seen Peaky Blinders?
Oh yeah.
Dude, like there's nothing better than a well-dressed man that will fucking kill you. Like that has his shit together and walks into the room and doesn't worry if anybody in there likes him or what they think about him. He could care less. He has, you know, and not in an arrogant kind of way. And it doesn't come across as an arrogant kind of way. It comes across as, I've got my shit together. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm not worried about your comments or whatever. But if you want to be a man and you want to be treated like a man, then that's what I'll do. You know, and whether that comes from, you know, a handshake, business deals, whatever it may be. One of the things that just absolutely chaps my ass in today's society is, back in the day, your name meant, like, you didn't say shit or commit to something and then back out of it. Like that was disgraceful. Nowadays, everybody is so like wishy-washy about that they do that. And that's one of the big problems that we have, right? That's why we have so many lawyers and people getting sued all over the place and stuff like that, is because you can't shake a man's hand anymore and say, yep, let's do this deal. And then honor your commitment as a man. Everything has to be in writing, because people stab you in the back and stuff. Jordan Peterson talked about that as well a lot, is the weak men are the dangerous men, because they're the ones that'll stab you in the back. The strong men, the quote unquote scary men, are the ones that will face you and face the conflict. You know, the one that you need to worry about are the slimy ones that are hiding behind a username or whatever it may be. And that's one of the things that what I don't like is how society accepts that kind of stuff. You know, you become what you tolerate, right? That whole statement, you become what you tolerate. And for me, honor and integrity is of utmost, right? Like, if I tell you I'm going to do something, like, I'm going to do it. Like that's just the way it is. I don't need a signed contract with you to honor my commitment stuff. If I give you my word, that's just as good. I mean, if you want me to sign something, then, you know, we'll do it, whatever. That's just the way that the world is today. But I think that's a big problem, that people just don't, your name doesn't carry as much weight as what it used to. And we've got to get back to that, where your name and your commitment, it carries all the weight in the world.
I like the I don't give a fuck what you think about me idea. And it's something that I know I had for a period of time when I was little, and then it went away for a period of time. I had some shit that happened in my life, and I went away from that. Like, I really worried about what other people thought of me for a long period of time. It was relationship situation with my old man, my profession as a principal. I was constantly like trying to keep the peace, if you will. And so that idea, JP, about I don't give a fuck. Do you think that in your work right now, can that be taught to men? Is that something Absolutely. That you can say, like, this is something, you do these 3 things and you will not give a fuck what other people think?
Absolutely. That's developed confidence is what that is. That's all that is developed through confidence. And confidence is nothing more than you keeping your commitments to yourself. When you have a crystallized goal in your life, and you've reversed engineered that crystallized goal into daily tasks that you do, and there's under no circumstances do you break your word to yourself, and you do everything that you say you're going to do that day in order to progress towards your goal. It's hard for people to kind of get through that. It's that whole, what is it? It's an African proverb or whatever, where they say, as long as I can control the devil within, the devil from the outside cannot do me any harm, kind of thing. As long as you're right with yourself, a lot of times, and you nailed it. I mean, you said exactly the reason for that. A lot of times the reason that men get in situations because they lose confidence, they get into dark spots in their life. They stop holding commitments to themselves. They start watching pornography all the time. You know, they're jerking off. They're being, you know, unfaithful to their wife, you know, whatever instances it may be. And the fact of the matter is, when you feed into those bodily addictions, or, you know, short-term, I guess, dopamine hits and stuff like that, you pay for that long-term with your confidence, because you just slowly but surely erode it. You know, one of the things that we're doing right now is 75 hard, just because we wanted to do something that was that was going to challenge us and be one of those inconvenient kind of things, but something that you can kind of set on the mantle. Like I did that, and I proved to myself that I'm a bad motherfucker. And the more you do that and you prove to yourself, the more disciplined you become, the less you give a damn about what anybody else thinks.
So for those listening that don't know the 75 hard, tell us what that is again.
Yeah. So 75 hard is essentially, so Andy Frisella, he owns First Form and some other companies, obviously, and he's got a podcast called Real AF. It's a good podcast if you dirty words. But he essentially put that together as more of a mental strength program. And it's essentially 2 45-minute workouts per day. Second workout has to be outside. They got to be 3 hours apart. The reason for that, I believe personally, is because the second workout is always fucking inconvenient, especially when you separate them by 3 hours, right? So I work out hard as shit, and then I got to wait 3 hours and I got to work out again. So I get back into my lull, and then I got to get back up and work out again. And then you got to drink a gallon of water. You got to read 10 pages out of a nonfiction book every day. You got to take a progress picture. You got to follow a diet. You can choose whatever diet it is that you want. And then there's no cheat meals or alcohol. And that has to be done for 75 days straight. If you miss any single one of those, if it's, an ounce of water or a progress picture that you don't take, you got to start back over at day one.
And it's such a great, he was a genius for putting this together. Everybody thinks it's like a fitness challenge, and it's not. I mean, you will get in better shape inevitably, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with integrity and character, because there's so many opportunities. I mean, it is, you're judging yourself on this, or, you're keeping yourself accountable. There's so many opportunities throughout the day where it would be easy to, like, especially with the diet thing, because there's no set diet. It's just whatever you picked at the beginning, whatever you said to yourself at the beginning is what you stick to. So like for me, it was no fried food, no sweets, no candy, any of that kind of garbage. But it's so easy to just be like, oh, that's just a peppermint. Is that really candy? Like little stuff, you know what I mean? Like, but that's chinks in the armor where that's how you start getting off track. It's the whole example of, you don't sharpen your pencil. It looks like you're not off course, but then further down the road you go, you're in the damn ditch. But if you get wins, though, on the reverse of that is when you do make those right decisions and you do drink that last 2 ounces of water. Because I mean, I'll tell you, for me, there's been nights where I wasn't sure. I was like, I go back and I think, okay, I had this much, and I track it pretty strictly, but I wasn't sure, am I a few ounces short? Listen, man, I could go to bed and say, I was probably close enough. Or I could say, I'm going to drink another 6 ounces just to be sure. That's the difference between being a confident man the next day and being someone that is getting soggy, right? Same thing with the workouts. Did you really work out, or just start a 45-minute timer? There's a million things throughout the day, and it's such a brilliant tool to create these little daily victories and build confidence, because at the end of it, so we're at days, 69 or something, I think. Man, what a great number. How appropriate. Hey-o.
You know what the square root of 69 is, right?
I'm scared to ask.
You know what the square root of 69 is?
I'm scared to ask.
It's 8 something.
8 something.
Oh,
8 and some change, baby.
Nice.
Oh, God didn't intend that.
Okay.
Sorry.
True story. We're getting super immature now, but this is fun. True story. About 45 minutes south of my dad's place in Mississippi, there's going down the interstate towards Hattiesburg. There's exit 69, and it's Eatonville. Okay.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
That's amazing.
Now, hey, I want to add to that really quick, though, because Cam went into a good point. That's another thing that outside of 75 hard that I think a lot of men and people in general miss the boat with. The first thing that we look for is the effort that we can put towards something. Like if somebody says, hey, look, you need to be reading every day. Like, well, how much do I need to read? As much as it takes. Like, okay, all right. So cold showers are really good for you. Okay, how cold does it have to be? Dude, you decide what cold is. Push yourself to the next level, because ultimately what it is it's all an internal battle in your head, right? If I get in the shower and I'm like, okay, that's not cold enough. And then I turn it down. I'm like, oh, that's fucking cold. I don't care what anybody else thinks about what's cold and what's not cold. If it was freaking cold for me, then I get out of the shower feeling like a beast because I just accomplished something that was uncomfortable. It's the same thing reading. Like if 5 pages is a lot and I haven't done it, that's where I get my confidence from. But if I know that I can get 15 pages in and stuff like that, and I only read 3 because somebody else says that 3 is sufficient, that I'm just doing myself damage because I know I'm not doing enough for me. That's like walking into the gym and working out and not getting a workout and just kind of going through the motions and stuff. And just put part of that on that post that I just sent out and stuff. That's one of the things that holds a lot of people back is they look for the bare minimum to do. And then they mess with their own psyche in that, and they damage their own confidence in it because they know they're not giving the effort that they need to give.
Well, they're killing their subconscious, and then they're wondering why they're not winning. Like they're still asking the question about why they're not winning, even though they have this minimalistic attitude towards their personal growth, and it will erode your self-esteem because ultimately, you're not doing what you need to do. And you know why you're not winning, and yet you continue to choose not to do those things. And go back to the not giving a fuck about what people think. If you do the opposite, like it's really easy to not care what people think when you know you did more before 8 a.m. than most people did all day.
Right.
It's really, really easy to just be like, I don't really even care about your opinion. Number one, my value does not come from you. My value comes from my creator. I already know I'm God playing man. We got that from Zach Blakeney. That was one of the most mind-boggling statements I ever heard. Like as a Christian, if I believe that I was created by the I don't even know what else to say, the creator of the universe, God, I am, right? Then I am already have infinite value. Now I can diminish that value by wasting my time and my effort and my life daily, or I can go out and attack life, as we talked about. We put a post out today about tenacity. Life. And if you have goals and you set goals, then you might as well chase after them with everything you have. And if you're doing that personally, the only thing that you can really focus on is what you're doing personally. And that will develop that mentality of, I don't really care what anybody else thinks. I know I'm winning, right? If you want to win with me, great, but that's on you.
Tenacity is such a great word. It really is. It conveys this level of fierceness in whatever it is. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical fitness. It is reading, it's drinking water, it's showing up in any way, but it's doing it with all of you. One of the things it's how I end every single episode on Building Men. It's go one step further than you thought you could go. And JP and Cam, like what your response was to that question, it embodies everything about that statement. Go one step further than you thought you can go. And then once you get to that point, you're like, I am capable of more than I thought. So now I could go another step further.
Yep.
So I appreciate you guys saying that. What I'd love to hear now is your journeys through school, middle school, through high school, and to what you're doing now. You had an idea about what it meant to be a man, lessons that you learned. But now coming out on the other side, being fathers, like having, working with this Reforged program, now you have ideas about what you should have learned, what you should have been taught. Give us a thought or two about things that you wish you would have learned in that middle and high school time frame that would have served you as a man in society now.
I tell you, honestly, I wish I had learned about personal growth and development. As great as my father is, and he really is, the way that he taught me mostly was example, not through intentional, like sitting down and telling me things, which I think is good and appropriate. But the thing that I did never really see him doing is working on himself. He was always taking care of other people. He was always taking, like financially, he always had things under control. Physically, he works hard, but he wasn't like intentionally making his body stronger. He's a logger, so by the nature of what he does, was physical. But there was never any like, hey, you should be in reading books, other than, I'd see him read the Bible, and I picked up that habit, and that's not a bad book to read. If anybody hasn't heard of it, it's good. It's been a bestseller for years. But other things as far as association with the right people. I mean, everybody, I think, as a kid hears, if you hang out with bad kids, you're going to do bad things or whatever. So like, maybe pick your friends well. But like the true importance of association and how like we keep talking about, or I do anyways, if somebody had been more intentional about picking great association or making sure your inner circle is your level and above, people that stretch you, like if you're the biggest fish in the pond, then you need to get into a different pond or you're not growing. Right. Those kinds of things are the stuff that I wish, and I'm maybe stealing all of JP's stuff. He may just duplicate all this, but the speech, what am I trying to say? Self-talk.
Articulation?
Self-talk. Yeah, maybe that too. probably could use some help with that as well, but that's the Mississippi, so I'll just blame it there. Why on earth would you have that many letters in a state that is so illiterate? It doesn't make any sense. And then you duplicate the letters to make it more confusing for the rednecks.
Letters.
Yeah.
So many letters.
But no, self-talk is another big one. So I'm very intentional about with my youngest boys specifically of affirmations and self-talk. And no, I didn't even know anything about that until I was in my 20s.
What about you, JP?
Yeah, so I guess it sucks going second when it comes to stuff like that, because Cameron did
Story of your life.
Well, he did. When you got one this big, you got to go second. Somebody's got to warm it up for you. So the
talking about prison again.
Yes. So the big thing here is, for me, was I probably would have really benefited from learning the difference between fixed and growth mindset, kind of growing up. I grew up in the fixed mindset. I grew up with a poor, I wouldn't say poor, like I ate, I wasn't starving to death or anything, but when we went to the store, my mom was like, don't ask for anything. We don't have any extra money, kind of thing. We had enough to live on, and that was good. So, I wasn't balling by any means, but I wasn't starving either. But I identified by my past a lot. Always had something to prove, right? Like I had a chip on my shoulder all the time, which sometimes that can be good if you use it in the right ways. But what it did was it made me avoid things that I didn't know whether or not I was good at, because I didn't want to look like a fool, right? I was so damn scared of failure that I would just avoid stuff and be like, nah, I don't want to do that. Even if I really wanted to do it, I would be like, nah, I don't want to do that, because I didn't want to look stupid. I cared too much. I was all about affirmations. I wanted to be, achievement was like my thing. So I did things that I was good at. I didn't branch out on stuff. The growth mindset, like really, and that's one of the things that I'm really fostering in my kids. Like, don't be afraid to fail. Take risks. Get out there. If you're going to mess up at 100 miles an hour. Who cares, man? The best way for you to learn and progress is to mess up. And the best way for you to build confidence in yourself is to know that it's okay to mess up and you're not going to fucking die. Yep. You can fix it. Like, you can mess up, you can learn from it, and you will be farther along than people like me that just stuck with shit that they were good at. Now, I'm not saying don't leverage your strengths, but don't identify by your failures, right? Your failures are not who you are, but I was like that for a while. I had a fixed mindset, and I always had something to prove. And I always, like, my identity was based off of success. I had to win everything. I was super competitive and I had to win everything. So that I couldn't do shit that I wasn't good at. I wouldn't do it because it would damage my reputation. I had a reputation to keep. So at a younger age, that's something that I wish I would have known. And the growth mindset, obviously, extrapolate to what kind of Cam was talking about as far as learning how to read, how to study, how to grow, how to speak to yourself, how to make sure that you get all those kind of characteristics about you. But that was probably one of my biggest detriments, and what held me back a lot was being in that mindset early on.
Right. It's interesting because the idea of do as I say, not as I do, leading by example. I think the sweet spot is leading by example for your kids. So showing them what to do by you, the way that you act on a regular basis, that idea of self-discipline, like showing them that, but then on the back end, having a conversation about it, sitting down with your son, your daughter. This is why I did what I did. Here's the reason why. This is what went well, and this is what didn't go well. So this way that they understand that there was a thought process and intentionality behind what you were doing. They saw you do it, and then the reflective piece on the end, like, hey, this went really well for me. I prepared in this way. It might have gone better for me if I did this as well. So you're going through that whole process of planning something, doing it, and then reflecting on it on the other end. I think that's where the sweet spot lies with, especially on our interactions with our own children. One thing I'd love to touch on right now with you guys, and I know we definitely want to continue this conversation. I feel like we should do this quarterly.
Yeah, right.
At least
because it's a good fucking time. When you could fucking throw out self-development, tenacity, and 69 jokes within a 3 minute span of time.
Right. Total package.
And not JP's balls either.
So the work that you're doing now with men in this Reforge program, what are the biggest obstacles that you see facing men today? So if there are one or two generalities that you can share with us of things that you see as commonalities that men are facing right now.
So the first one, yeah, I'll take the first part. We can bounce off here. So while you're thinking about where your head's at with it, the first part I think for me is ego. One of the things that you have to get past with men. So when we're talking about dealing with men is getting through their ego first to get to where that soft inner center is. That's actually there to accept the stuff, right? There's that trauma or whatever it may be that's happened in the past. That's just reaching out, going, somebody help me. But there's an ego on the side of it that's just a hard shell that's kind of encasing where they really need the help at. So getting through that hard shell is the first part, and that's I think why guys like us in the program that we have and guys like yourselves and what you guys are doing is effective, because we can look at somebody and go, dude, shut the fuck up. Everything that you're doing right now is nothing more than a defense mechanism to try to protect your ego. So as soon as you get rid of your ego, I'll tell you, we sent out a message to all the attendees that were coming to the event. And one of the rules was leave your ego with people that actually are impressed by it, because we're not. We don't care about your ego. All your ego is doing right now is holding you back. So I think personally, like right now, as far as what I'm seeing, I think ego tends to hold men in these stuck situations, because you have to get your ego out of the way in order to learn and to grow and stuff like that. And we have different ways of doing that. And a lot of times it's not comfortable, but it has to be that way, right? That's why we call it a forge. It's got to be a painful process at the very beginnings. And then when they drop their ego, it's like, boom. I mean, there's crying, there's hugging, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. And which Cameron doesn't mind.
Cuddling?
Well, Cameron cuddles.
Well, my next one, now that I got the name. You know, I don't know how we can have an event with cuddles there. No, I agree. I mean, yeah, we talk about do hardship first. So, you know, the way our events flow are very much along that line, because they finish a lot differently than they start, kind of like JP. But I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing is along that same vein as what JP's talking about is, yes, dropping your ego. So dudes have to have it all figured out. You know, I mean, all of us at some point in our life, like, I got this shit figured out. I don't need your help. Right. And so the toughness part is not really something like true toughness we might have to work on, but like just being tough and whatever is not something we see as much, but it's actually connecting with that emotional side, the thing that dudes don't talk about as much. But as JP mentioned, the way to get through the emotional side is to go through some hardship first and break down these barriers and these walls. The other thing that I've seen is that dudes have a tendency to not focus on themselves. We all feel like we are a leader, and we believe that, like, as a dude, you're a leader, like by design, like whether you want or not, you were created to be a leader. Now, you may just be leading your wife or your family as a whole, or you may be a leader in your community or in your company or in your business, whatever it may be. You are a fucking leader, whether you want to be or not. We said it at the event, like, if you've got a package, you got to deliver. That's the deal, right? So, but we have this tendency to focus so much on what I have to do for my wife, what I have to do for my kids, what I have to do for my employees, what I have to do for my neighbors, and all these different things. And the only way that we can really be effective in all those roles is if we focus on what I have to do for myself. I've got to fucking put my mask on first. I have to. Like, if I don't stop and focus on growing emotionally, spiritually, all those ways, then I'm swinging maybe 60% in all those other arenas. And 60% cutting as a husband, or as a father, or as some, you know, other people count on in your neighborhood or in your community or your city or whatever. So I think a big part of it, dudes actually going, I need to actually focus on personal growth and development so I can be who I need to be in these other roles, instead of just chopping the same damn tree with the same dull axe.
Who was the guy from Anchorman? Who was Paul Rudd's character? 60% of the time it works every time.
Sex Panther.
You got me that for Christmas one year. You got me Sex Panther for Christmas.
It smelled like pure gasoline. Yeah.
Burned like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Burned a hole in my neck when I put it on.
Nice.
If you have a package, you have to deliver. That's gonna putting that quote in this episode too. Real quick, Anthony, spell Mississippi.
MISSISSIPPI.
All right, well done.
Damn, New Jersey guy.
He's 3 for 6 now.
I blacked out. What
spelling states. You're 3 for 6 now.
It's so long.
You're like Will Ferrell in Old School, right?
Know, yeah. Pulling out all the lines.
Oh,
cool,
when
man.
he's debating James Corwell. That's amazing. All right. Anthony, any final questions?
Yeah. So one last question for both of you. For the men and the young men listening out there, what's one thing you can tell them to do once they've shut off this podcast so they can start right now to kind of kickstart their life off? Any one thing that you could think of?
Wow, just one, huh?
Just one thing.
Take down all your problems that you're having in your life, write them down on a piece of paper, separate them out, everything that's under your control and everything that is not under your control. Get rid of the shit that's not in your control and focus on everything that is.
Love it.
Yep. And I would say take a real honest look at your inner circle and your association, the people you hang out with on a regular basis, and don't fucking lie to yourself. Is it helping you grow or is it holding you back? And then make a real decision to say, if I want to stay where I am, I'm cool with hanging out with these idiots. If I want to be a better man than I currently am, I'm cool with cutting ties. If I have to, I still love them. I just can't hang out with them anymore.
Good advice.
Love that. Love that.
My favorite part about that is we haven't had a repeat.
Not one person out of all the people we've interviewed has said the same thing for the one thing someone needs to do. So it's amazing. Like, I love hearing this.
Nice.
And
I'm gonna have to
we
go
put
check
all
out some of
these
those other
one
answers.
things. Yeah, and well, the Building Men book will be coming out, and we're taking. It's going to be the one thing, like 365 one things that you can do to change the trajectory of your
That's
life.
brilliant. I like
Hey,
it.
congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Good for y'all.
Appreciate it. And hey, now we're in the same concentric circle. Then we're working towards that inner circle, the four of us right now. So guys, tell
Right.
us where we can find you. How do we get in touch with you?
Social media at Shepherds of Men on Facebook, Instagram. I think we still have a Twitter account. We never use it. So usually just Facebook, Instagram, and Shepherds of Men TN at gmail.com if you want to email us about something, if you still do that. And yeah, I mean, June 25th, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, we have our next high carbon experience coming up. Tickets are kind of officially on sale for that. So you can DM us anywhere on social and find out about that. We typically like all 5 people, so we like to have a one-on-one conversation before anybody gets involved in that event. It is not a big net type of thing. We'll only have 20 to 25 dudes there, so we keep it.
It's awesome. Anthony, where can we find you? How do we get in touch with you?
At Coach Anthony Moralda.
Awesome. Building Men Audience, building.men on Instagram, buildingmen.io is our website. Thank you to our sponsors, FTR Apparel and Become Stronger Industries, makers of handmade steel maces and hammers. Guys, this was a blast. We'll run this back again. Really appreciate you guys. It's always good when we could get on a podcast and it's not just all serious. There's some, when there's bald jokes and it's
witty banter.
we really appreciate it. So appreciate you guys. Let us know if there's anything that we can do to support you. Building Men Audience, go one step further than you thought you could go. We'll see you next time on Building Men.